Hey guys, welcome to Dreamhouse Nightmare. I'm Adam, and today I'm going to be talking about the Evil Dead franchise. First, I want to apologize for my attire. I usually wouldn't wear a tank top like this and show my chest or anything like that, but thing is, it's super hot outside, and even with the AC on, it's not helping at all. So, I apologize in advance, and I'm going to jump right into it. So, The Evil Dead has been one of my all-time favorite franchises. I mean, from the very first time that I saw the film, I think I was around maybe 11 to 13 years old. I remember picking it up at Walmart. Anchor Bay had put it out on DVD, and I had never seen it. And I had rented so many videos from the video store when I was a kid, and that was the one movie that really stuck out to me, and it has throughout the rest of my life. And I revisit it all the time. I revisit the first one, the second one. I don't revisit Army of Darkness as much, and it's not because I don't like it, but just because I don't want to overkill myself on Army of Darkness. But I do absolutely love that film. So one of the things about my channel is I really do like to talk about physical media, and I like to talk about toys, and I kind of put everything into one because, as you can see, I have boxes behind me. It goes all the way around me. We have shelves full of dolls, Funkos, Beta, Laserdisc, action figures, and all of them are collectibles, and I like to showcase as much as I can with the things that I love on this channel and on my Instagram, Dreamhouse Nightmare, as much as I can. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the physical media first before we jump into the actual franchise. So a little bit that I like to have to talk about is these three right here. Now, I'm not a person who likes bootleg. I absolutely hate bootleg. I hate when I order something and then it comes and it's a bootleg, and I can tell it's a bootleg and I have to send it back and then get a refund or report them for selling bootlegs. I don't like that. However, if you know a little bit about the franchise, you know that Sam Raimi made several short films. I think there were Super 8 films, I believe. Let me just make sure. I don't even know if it has... I think they were Super 8, 16 millimeter, somewhere around there. There is one that he did with a killer lawnmower that is just really funny. And it's kind of got that slapstick comedy to it, even with the lawnmower. And you can tell it's Sam Raimi, and it's early Sam Raimi, and I love his work so much. And I just wish that we could get a definitive Blu-ray collection of all of his short films and everything he did prior to The Evil Dead, because it is well worth having a Blu-ray. I can only hope that Vinegar Syndrome or maybe a really good company can pick. Honestly, let's be real. Vinegar Syndrome is the only label that I just absolutely love and collect. I love Severin, I love Arrow, I love Scream and Shout Factory, but nothing takes it like Vinegar Syndrome. So if maybe one day they will pick up a Sam Raimi, Super 8s, all that. However, I know there's legal issues with Within the Woods from I think it's 1978, 1979. But that was a film that was used to promote the original Evil Dead to the backers of the film, the people who were going to produce it. And if you find one of these bootleg DVDs on here, it's got Sam Raimi's short films, and it also has Within the Woods, which is the holy grail of being able to own it. They do come factory sealed. This one is the opened version because I have two of them. That one is the sealed one. So I'm just going to kind of show you the bootleg. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad that it's a bootleg because you're never going to find this anywhere else. But here's the front. Here's the back. I wish it had better artwork, but it doesn't. And then there is the inside right there. So that is what that looks like. And again, I do not promote anything bootleg except for just these two things that I own right here. Also, the Evil Dead musical. It's a must. It's a must. And, you know, to look at some of what you are able to get, there was a Blu-ray, I want to say it was a German Blu-ray that had Within the Woods on it, and then they found out that they were not able to release Within the Woods, so They were pulled. However, some of those got out, and some people actually own them. Those are holy grail finds if you're ever going to try to find one. I've been trying to find one for years, so good luck with that. And it's probably going to cost an arm and a leg and a pretty penny on your bank account. So other than that, as far as like, Blu-rays go, here's, like Blu-rays that they put out. But what I really want to show also is this edition of the Evil Dead Groovy collection, which I thought was a really cool box set. This was given to me as a gift from Steve McGill, my other half, and I absolutely love this. I had to open it, and I don't normally open stuff, but I really wanted to see what this looked like, and I'm going to open it today. I don't really watch anything out of this because I have all the movies and the show on other copies, so I try to leave this one as perfect as possible, but this is like what it looks like inside. So we have the Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, we have Ash versus Evil Dead, which serves as 3 films, and another Ash versus Evil Dead, and then we have the bonus disc here. So this is a really cool thing to pick up. I really wish that someone could have figured out how to get Army of Darkness in there, but I understand it's a different company, so I get that. One of the other things that I also have that is one of my favorite in the collection, I've showed this on so many videos, so a lot of you already know what it's going to be, but it is part of the Evil Dead cabin. Now, I'm going to go back to this here in a second, but I'm going to go over to the actual Funkos. There are some really cool Funkos out right now of the Evil Dead, and this one is the Evil Dead 40th anniversary, and it's the Bloody Ash. This one is a limited chase edition, and I absolutely love this. Second that we have, and I need to get the plastic things on them, so but this one is the Army of Darkness Ash with his boomstick and the chainsaw. I just really love this one as well. And another one is I have another Evil Dead 40th anniversary, and it's Ash with a chainsaw, and he still has his hand on. And then there's 2 more. And the Army of Darkness, which I need to get a shield for this one just to make sure it stays perfect, but I absolutely love this one. I love the poster from the back. I've always loved that poster of Bruce Campbell. It's just Bruce Campbell, absolute hero. Absolute hero. And then for me, the Holy Grail right here is the Deadite Army of Darkness Funko that is signed by Sam Raimi, my inspiration to getting into film and becoming an actor, director, everything. Sam Raimi, thank you for all you ever did. You inspired me to do so much in horror and to make film as well. So this is my big one right here. So I'm going to kind of put these to the side for a second, and I'm going to tell you first in order what we have, because if some people have seen the Evil Dead, some of you may never have watched any of the Evil Dead, but I have all of the movies. I have more Blu-rays and things like that that I just can't find because my collection is so big, and I was trying to go through everything to grab everything that I could, and unfortunately I couldn't do that. So first and foremost, we have Evil Dead, which came out in 1981, and I'm going to bring up something real quick on my other phone just to make sure I have everything accurate. Okay, so we got an IMDb. I want to say, here we go, the Evil Dead. Yes, 1981, rated NC-17, and very much deserve that rating. So Evil Dead 1981, I was able to watch at a very young age, but one of the things that really stuck out to me was the fact that it looked so familiar to me. And that was what was really funny. So, fun story is I actually grew up about a minute and a half from where the opening of the film was filmed. And then I lived 30 minutes from the cabin, which was in Morristown, Tennessee. And I visited the cabin and I've went back to where I grew up and I got to see the opening where they shot that. And everything looked so familiar to me. And I knew it was filmed in Tennessee, but I did not know that we were that close to it. And I remember years ago, me and my best friend, Courtney, we went on an Evil Dead hunt to find the filming locations. And this was like before like we had GPS, like we were map questing some stuff. Like it was way back when. So we were able to kind of go through some like locations. We were totally lost, but I remember we had so much fun doing that, and that's just kind of like a fun story. But we were lost all day. We ended up eating at some diner like way out. I don't even know where we're at. We're overlooking in the mountains, but we were obviously lost. But years later, I was able to find where the cabin was, and I went and I saw it, and that is where I got this and other pieces of the cabin. Now, this is part of the fireplace. I did not break this off the fireplace. The fireplace, the whole building is actually gone, but the roof is still there. The hole where Cheryl gets into the hole, because it actually had to be built for the film, is still there. And this part had fallen off the top of the fireplace, and we took only what was broken off and just picked it up. And there's a few other pieces that we got. They're scattered throughout the house, but that is probably one of my favorite pieces that I own, just because it is part of the Evil Dead cabin, which to me itself is its own character in the original 1981 film. And then second, we have Evil Dead 2, which, let's see, that one was, continue. That movie was made in 1987. And then we have Army of Darkness, which was made in 1992. And then we also have Ash versus the Evil Dead, which was a TV series. And then we also have Evil Dead Rise, and then we're about to get Evil Dead Burn. And we just found out that Lee Cronin did The Mummy, which is also in the Evil Dead universe, and I can totally see where it's tying in, especially whenever you listen to the voice recordings in Evil Dead Rise. So that all is like really, really cool. I really like where this franchise is going. So one of the good things about the Evil Dead franchise is that it has the star as Ash Williams in the earlier films. But what you see right now is different from like the Scream franchise, because the Scream franchise uses its final girls because that's where we're at right now in the series, as returning characters. With this, it's like we're getting new films and they're tying into other films, but they're still fresh characters. They're still fresh faces. The only thing that I wish that we would get right now, especially like with the Ash versus Evil Dead TV series, is that I want another final boy. Like Ash Williams is the original Scream King, and he is the best final boy in films 1, 2, and 3 and the TV series. So then you have like Evil Dead 2013, which was more like a requel, a remake, and a sequel with Jane Levy. And then we got Evil Dead Rise, which had another final girl. And then we have Evil Dead Burn, which is coming out. And then The Mummy also had another girl. One of the things that I wish that they would do, especially with this series, is to keep that core Scream King. And I would love to see another guy be a standout for the franchise. Because if you're going to, like, example, like the way Scream kind of went in and had like a different group of friends later on that were younger, it really focused on sisters being like the new It team in the franchise. Well, I want that It guy team for the Evil Dead, with that slapstick comedy. Not that there's anything wrong with the female leads. I absolutely love the leads that we've got in the Evil Dead, but just someone to kind of take the torch, with the Evil Dead, since Bruce Campbell is, I'm not saying he's moving away from the franchise, but I just don't really see him returning for many more films, if I could say it nicely, because I've heard he's got some health issues, unfortunately, which has definitely been probably the hardest news this year to get. But going into The Evil Dead 1981, one of the things that I really love about it, like we have the opening of the film, they're driving in their car and they get to this cabin. And within the cabin, they find the recordings downstairs with the Book of the Dead, and they read from it. And then what's really cool is you have this supernatural element that brings demonic possession and zombie type mixture with it that gives it its deadite character to really be something different from other films. It's kind of like, how would I say, like a demonic possession film mixed with a zombie type film, but they're not really zombies, but they kind of are. But it can like bring the dead back to life. It can affect someone who is still alive or possess them, and it just makes it's all out chaos. And there's been lots of games, which I have some of the games which I should have brought. I didn't even think to get that to show on camera, but there's lots of video games of the Evil Dead. They even have a new one that's a crossover to Halloween, which I really, really, really loved. And that was on Switch that I played that. I believe it's available like on PlayStation and other consoles as well. But it's such a strong franchise to me because one of the things that it does is it never acts like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Scream or Hellraiser. And when I look at those films, especially like with the Halloween franchise stretched out the brother sister concept starting at the second film, not from the first. And they really expanded that world by using that brother sister concept. And we have Halloween H2O, where Laurie Strode has like a son, and then we have the was it David Gordon Green, who has a trilogy with her daughter and then her daughter. And it's just like two totally alternate worlds within the same kind of a concept with different characters. But then you also have like Nightmare on Elm Street, where Heather Langenkamp continued her role, and it, and like the earlier sequels were like, in my opinion, the best with like Dream Warriors and things like that. It was a really cool concept, but at some point I felt like it needed to change, and I think that franchise is still kind of trying to figure that out. But also, like when you look at like Friday the 13th, to me, it's kind of like the same movie over and over and over and over again, and it never really changes. But what's cool about The Evil Dead is the first film takes place in a cabin. The second film almost acts like a remake, but also introduces a medieval aspect and kind of a different budget and gives a slapstick comedy. So it gives like an alternate remake in kind of way, something that I don't think any other films have actually done it that way. But then the third film is straight up medieval and slapstick comedy. Then you got the TV series. We have the requel, which is back in 2013, and that kind of brought the horror back of the original film. Like if you watched the first film back when you were a kid, you were probably very terrified. Like, it was a very gruesome, very violent, gory film, but then it brought that and kind of remade it into a fourth entry into the Evil Dead franchise. And then what they did was they went back to the slapstick comedy and they did the TV series, which was phenomenal. Wrong streaming platform. I believe it was put on HBO. If that shit had been on Netflix, or something like Hulu, I think that it would have done a lot better because a lot of people didn't have access to the show as it was showing, and that's why we didn't get that last season. That would have been absolutely insane, the best of the best. But I absolutely love the characters. I love that they had Lucy Lawless in it. They had Ted Raimi. They brought back Cheryl Ellen Sandwich, who looks like she hasn't aged a day since the original Within the Woods from the 70s. Like, she doesn't look like the woman has not aged in a day. It's ridiculous. Had her in the same clothing. They really play with a lot of really cool concepts and absolutely outrageous kills that really hadn't been done in other TV shows. And some of it was a little inappropriate, but that's what made it even more better for the slapstick comedy, in my opinion. But then we got Evil Dead Rise. And this is where I think, in all honesty, I started to notice that this franchise was a lot better than other franchises out there because it no longer used the Ash Williams character starting at Evil Dead 2013, which everyone thought was a remake, but it actually was just a fourth entry. It was a requel. So there was a moment, I think, where requels were becoming really popular, and I think even like the Scream franchise called that out, the requels and things like that. But it served its own purpose, and it was really cool, and it was a really cool entry into the film, and it let the viewer know that if we're going to get some films from this, we're probably going to get that gory, extremely violent type of film. And so when we went into Evil Dead Rise, we knew that they were going to be in like an apartment building, and there was different people in different rooms, and I was kind of like, how are they going to do this? Like, what are they going to do? And they played it really well. They played it really well, and it was extremely gory, it was extremely fun, and it was unique. The Deadites were unique. What was her name? Alyssa Sutherland, who played the mother, I believe that's her name. She was incredible as a Deadite. She's probably one of my favorite Deadites in any of the franchise. Now, Cheryl will always be my number one, but I have to give credit where credit's due, and Alyssa played like one of the best Deadites in the franchise. I think that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from her, and I think that's why I can't say that she outdid Cheryl, because the Cheryl Deadite performance in the first film is just incredible. I actually think that in any horror film, out of any monster that we've ever got, out of any possession film that we've ever got, out of any zombie film, out of any type of horror film, to me, the ultimate villain, monster, whatever you want to call it, is Ellen Sandwich, The Evil Dead 1981. That performance alone, impeccable, perfection, great. And we see something a little bit different than you see from other horror films. They use the environment around them, kind of like how Nightmare on Elm Street uses your dreams. Well, The Evil Dead uses its trees, and we get the infamous tree assault scene, which is kind of interesting. And I will say that the way that it's shot and the way that it's filmed, especially, I know that they had to do that in reverse, is it was done very, very well. And I have to give credit where credit's due. That was a very strong scene. Some people feel very strongly about it, but undeniably, it's very effective. So I do want to give credit where credit is due. I still have always absolutely loved the first film. The second film, I've revisited a little bit, and the third film I used to watch all the time as a younger kid, but now I find myself going, if I want the slapstick comedy, I go towards the show, which the show is just, to me, my opinion, outdid Army of Darkness. Because if the show was made back when Army of Darkness was being made, with just all of that, that would have been like candy for me. So yeah, Then we got a really big surprise this year. And that surprise was Lee Cronin came out and talked about how the Mummy movie that he just made is in the Evil Dead universe. And if you have seen it, you know. And if you haven't seen it, well, you need to see it because I absolutely love it. I absolutely 110% call it an Evil Dead film. It's probably one of the best Evil Dead films made besides the original. Like, as far as like the newer films, it's one of the better Evil Dead movies made. Also, I love how far it goes back into the mythology of it, talking about it, how we see it moving around, kind of the evil there. And that is what I really liked about The Mummy. And if you recognize the audio recordings from Evil Dead Rise, well, if you remember that and you watch this movie, you're going to know how it's intertwined, which is really, really cool. I love how they tied in a mummy film, or just the monster, the mummy, into the Evil Dead. It's just incredible. I love it. And apparently, they're tying more in with Evil Dead Wrath. But we've got Evil Dead Burn coming up. Now, I watched this trailer and I saw like the little sneak peek. Somebody had put it on, somebody had recorded it in the theater that they were in. And you could see, I think it was like maybe like a minute long, and you saw people being thrown around the house. This movie looks like it's going to be relentless. This movie looks like it's going to be probably the most violent in the franchise. And I'm excited to see where the Deadites are going to go with this. More so than the story. As far as like, because I know we're going to get a, I know, like I have faith that they're going to give it a really good story. Why? Because they have with Evil Dead 2013, they have with Evil Dead Rise, they did it with Ash versus Evil Dead, and then also we're getting that with Evil Dead Burn. And with the Evil Dead Burn, what is going to be unique is that this is going to be like a whole family. And I tend to be a little bit more, I have a soft spot for like, if I am watching a movie and it's a family and they're getting unalived, that tends to bother me a little bit more. But I think with this is I think that we're going to have a little bit darker side of the Evil Dead franchise come out. I think what Lee Cronin did with The Mummy, like that was really dark, especially if you know the scene with the whole ritual. That was pretty dark. And so I'm expecting like Evil Dead Burn to be just dark, and I'm excited for it. But what this franchise does, the other franchises haven't done, is it's not relying on just one story arc with these group of characters. And it allows more room to grow with new stories, new characters, finding the Necronomicon, and that's what I like. And that's what I would have liked to seen with like the way John Carpenter was originally doing Halloween 3. Like he was doing a Halloween film, but it was with Silver Shamrock and not Michael Myers. And personally, I think Halloween 3 is probably one of the best sequels in that entire franchise. It's an incredible film, but it just doesn't have Michael Myers in it. And I think that that's okay. Like if you change up your, that would have been like, where did the evil come from? It came from The Mask, and if they had played it like that through the franchise, instead of like the brother-sister concept, we would have had a totally different Halloween franchise. But instead, we have all these sequels that span off of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. And to me, it got old and it kind of got boring after a while, especially with the new trilogy. It was just so much. I would have liked to have a little bit more of like where that evil came from and played with the mass concept of Silver Shamrock throughout that franchise. So I think in the same sense, I think that the Evil Dead has kind of done just that. Like it's played with its main Book of the Dead, Necronomicon, and it's allowed that to take shape and form and kind of move into like The Mummy, move into like Evil Dead Rise, move into its TV show and still give you that slapstick comedy with the same characters and new characters, and bringing back the older characters from the original, and then also having fun with like the video games that we have, the comic books. I know that there was like an Army of Darkness Danger Girl comic that came out, which was like, I never got them, and I really wish I did because I was a massive Danger Girl fan. But like, there's a lot of crossovers and lots of video games, lots of different concepts. And I think that the Evil Dead franchise approaches that in such a creative and genius way that other franchises don't do that. With like Scream, you always have the same characters coming back for another round. And what's going on in this time of like, it's 2026, whatever's going on with horror is what is reflected in the film, like the new rules, the new things that happen. And you know, at some point that's cool, but it's going to get old, you know, especially when you have the legacy characters who are coming back over and over and over. Not that I dislike them, because let me tell you, I love Scream, I love the franchise, and probably one of my favorite characters from it is Gail Weathers. So, you know, and she's reoccurring. But you also are introduced to another story with sisters in that franchise. And I just think that the Evil Dead approached that at such a better way of being able to have sequels that's not related to the other films, but you can see the relation and it ties into it in a way that you can tell. And I think that they're going to really tie it in, from what I hear, on Evil Dead Wrath that's coming out after Burn. So yeah, excuse me. I think that the Evil Dead is a unique franchise. I think it's fun. I think that there are some great knockoffs of the Evil Dead that you can go out there and find. There's one called Muscle Bodybuilder from Hell, which is the Japanese Evil Dead film, which is a really great film. It's very much you'll see the Evil Dead, but it's like watching the Evil Dead through an Asian cinema type of lens, and it's really good. I really like it. I also have to give credit where credit's due. I think that we do have a sequel that nobody ever talks about, and it's not officially part of the Evil Dead franchise, but I do have to bring it up, and I am going to just show you all. Let's talk about Evil Tunes. This is the sequel that we never got for the Evil Dead. This is filled with nudity. It's got a lot of adult film stars cast in lead roles, along with Monique Gabrielle. So like, you're talking like the 90s, kind of the scream queens. We have Madison Stone, which to me is the highlight of this entire film. Madison Stone, I love you. Like, I fell in love with you from this film as an actress. And I know that she's an adult film star, but you know, I collect adult films as well, and that's their own thing. But my thing with this is like, this is about the Necronomicon is being sent, I believe, to a museum, and I guess to be studied, and it gets sent to the wrong address. And it's just like the Evil Dead Book of the Dead, but it has a face and everything on it. But one of the drawings, when they open it up, the sorority girls open it up, comes to life and starts possessing them. And thus we have Evil Tunes. It is straight up an evil, the unofficial, probably I'm going to call it I don't even want to call it unofficial, because it's so tied into it that it's undeniably tied into it and nobody ever talks about it. This is the lost sequel. That's what I'm going to call it. That's what I'm going to call it. Watch Evil Tunes. If you're an Evil Dead fan and you just want more out of the franchise, there are tons of films out there that are ripoff. We also have the films of the UK, which it was called La Casa. La Casa is what Evil Dead was. Oh God, I'm trying to remember what. Maybe it was Italy. I don't know. It was released as La Casa, over somewhere in the UK. And there's an entire franchise number of films called La Casa, and The Evil Dead was one of them. So we got like Ghost House, and I want to say that was one of them. It had like Linda Blair and the dude David Hasselhoff from like Baywatch in it. Now I'm just saying, if you like just for shiggles to like have another film, have something new, have something different, and you kind of want to go back and you want to see something different, something unique, something on a different take, go back and watch some of those films. I had some of those films. I didn't necessarily like those films. They weren't the best, but I just, they weren't my thing. So I really stick with The Evil Dead. And then if I want to have another sequel that I feel like is a lost sequel, I kind of go to Evil Tunes, because it really ties straight in with The Evil Dead, especially with how we are looking at Evil Dead Rise, because there was more than one Necronomicon, apparently, from what I remember of the story. And that kind of is like another Necronomicon goes to a sorority, or actually they're cleaning an old house to raise money for their sorority, and the package gets delivered to their house, and they open it up. It's a Necronomicon, and the drawing comes out and starts possessing them. It has David Carradine, and it also has, who is the other one? It was directed by Fred Olen Ray, and yeah, there was one more guy though in that was really awesome. He's in like everything. But anyway, the standout is Madison Stone. She's great. She's funny. I wish that she was in more stuff. I consider it part of the Evil Dead franchise for me. It's a movie that I always play in between. Like if I'm watching Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3, I'll watch Evil Dead 2, Evil Tunes, and then I watch Army of Darkness, and then I go into Ash vs. Evil Dead, then I go into Evil Dead 2013, Evil Dead Rise. So that's just kind of how I like to watch that franchise play out. But one thing is undeniable about the Evil Dead franchise. It's gruesome. It's terrifying. It's a strong franchise. Its sequels never get boring. The story is so intriguing. You have video games. You have comic books. You have so much that you can immerse yourself into the Evil Dead world and franchise itself, that the possibility is endless. And I'm really excited to see where Evil Dead Burns is going to come in and how it's going to set with the rest of the franchise. Also, again, absolutely love Lee Cronin's The Mummy. It is an Evil Dead film, and it's probably one of my favorite Evil Dead films. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. And have you seen the trailer for Evil Dead Burn? Because that is going to be something really cool. But anyway, that's all I have for the Evil Dead franchise. Follow me on Instagram at Dreamhouse Nightmare. I also have a Nightly Slasher Instagram up. I don't really post much on there. So some people are still following me on there. If you can, follow me on Dreamhouse Nightmare, where you can get all the updates. I am going to try to be getting more content out on this channel. I've got a list of things that I want to make videos on. And also, I do co-host over on the Horror Realm with Travis Bruce. So check out that channel. And he's got some really great stuff going on over there. So give the Horror Realm a follow, give Dreamhouse Nightmare a follow on Instagram, and yeah, subscribe for more content.